Next session will be a presentation on the core principle of community safety, security, and effective justice. I will turn it over to County Administrator to begin today's presentation.
Good afternoon again, commissioners and residents of Franklin County. I am County Administrator Ken Wilson, and today you will hear part of the story on how we are working every day to make Franklin County a place where every resident feels safe, protected, and supported by a justice system that is fair and is invested in good outcomes for the community. The 2025 recommended budget aligns with our strategic direction by investing in those areas that allow us to advance our vision for this core principle. As seen in the presentations to follow, this budget and our agencies embrace the values of respect, fairness, and trust. We will begin today's session hearing from Rochelle Pride, Director for the Office of Justice Policy and Programs. We will discuss the investments in effective diversion programs and successful reentry programs, followed by initiatives related to helping victims of domestic violence. After that, Jeff Young, Director of the Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency, will discuss how we can keep our communities safe through our systems of warning sirens, mass notification, and regional communications. We will then conclude with an overview of the agencies that fall primarily under the core principle of community safety, security, and effective justice.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, County Administration, and Team Franklin County. Alternatives to the traditional criminal justice system provide better outcomes, including reduced recidivism, connections to community services and supports, as well as reduced costs associated with incarceration. I want to emphasize that uplifting one of us uplifts all of us. And with your continued support, our newest diversion initiative is designed to do just that. The Tappan Center provides an alternative solution for individuals facing nonviolent misdemeanor warrants and legal services. The initiative seeks to reduce the burden on the criminal justice system, addressing underlying issues including missed court dates, fines, and other barriers that perpetuate cycles of involvement with the legal system. By addressing nonviolent misdemeanor warrants in a holistic and supportive way, the initiative is an innovative example of smart justice. Using alternative, community-based solutions to reduce impacts of minor legal infractions on individuals, this aligns with the goal of reducing incarceration rates while connecting individuals to the resources they need to integrate into society. The Tappan Center is a collaborative effort between the Franklin County Office of Justice Policy and Programs, multiple City of Columbus departments, the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles, the Columbus Metropolitan Library, and numerous community partners. This cooperation provides the services necessary to address the multifaceted needs of individuals involved in the justice system. The warrant set-aside service is provided, allowing individuals to resolve legal issues while mitigating the likelihood of arrest. In addition to legal services, the Tappan Center partners with the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles, help individuals address issues related to their driver's licenses, including reinstating suspended licenses or resolving outstanding fines, fees that may be hindering their ability to drive legally. Finally, the initiative connects individuals to health and human services provided by the county, helping address broader social determinants of justice involvement and their health. Since its soft launch in September and October of 2024, the Tappan Center has made significant strides. 35 residents have accessed services, demonstrating early engagement with the model. 15 individuals have received warrant set-aside services, reducing the legal burden of those individuals and their families. And over 20 individuals have received assistance from the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles to resolve issues related to driving records and their licenses. Many have benefited from supportive services provided by the county's Health and Human Services agencies, helping stabilize their lives and reduce the likelihood of recidivism. In the future, the Tappan Center will be hosted monthly at various Columbus Metropolitan Libraries, providing a convenient location for individuals to access services they need. Residents can schedule appointments through the dedicated Tap-In hotline at 614-525-4488, ensuring they can receive support without fear of being arrested for nonviolent offenses. Our goal is to add record sealing and expungement services for 2025. Now I would like to highlight our intentional efforts to provide nationally recognized reentry services to our Franklin County residents. The Bridge Respite Housing Program, which is one of 6 specialized housing initiatives embedded within OJPP, and the Rapid Resource Centers play crucial roles in supporting individuals transitioning from carceral settings back into the community, particularly during a period of heightened vulnerability to overdose and relapse. These programs aim to mitigate these risks and provide necessary support for successful reentry into society. Rapid Resource Center staff use motivational interviewing techniques, as well as their own lived experiences, to engage individuals and offer immediate assistance. This support ranges from offering basic items like access to a computer and phone usage to comprehensive services, including treatment referrals and peer support linkages. For individuals indicating homelessness upon release, the Bridge program provides respite housing, case management, and transition planning. This helps ensure that individuals have the stability needed to begin rebuilding their lives. In response to the heightened risk of overdose during the post-release period, individuals screened as at risk are released with harm reduction information and a Naloxone kit. For the programming year ending September 30th, 2024, 9,767 individuals visited the Rapid Resource Centers, indicating significant utilization of services provided. 2,994 individuals received transportation assistance, 1,351 Narcan kits were distributed, a vital step in preventing opioid overdoses, and 144 individuals were connected to treatment services, facilitating their path toward recovery and rehabilitation. And 154 individuals who reported homelessness at the time of booking were provided with safe housing and comprehensive support, including case management and transition planning. A priority for the upcoming year will be enhancing efforts to engage individuals before their release from carceral settings, providing proactive support and planning in advance of their reentry. A major development will be the full launch of the new Rapid Resource Center at the James A. Carnes Correctional Center, broadening the reach of these essential services by focusing on these areas. The Rapid Resource Center and the Bridge program continue to address critical gaps in services for those at high risk of overdose and relapse upon release and provide the support necessary for individuals to reintegrate into society successfully and safely. Our discussion of community safety would not be complete without addressing how we are supporting victims through some of the most difficult times in their lives. In 2024, Franklin County celebrated substantial progress in ensuring justice and safety for vulnerable community members. Through a collaborative multi-agency approach, we successfully completed a 3-year U.S. Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women grant. This initiative focused on improving the response to domestic violence crimes via the Blueprint for Safety, interagency response to domestic violence model. The Blueprint model recognizes the best outcomes for victims and families stem from a cohesive system that aligns the efforts of 911 dispatch, law enforcement, prosecutors, the courts, and victim advocates. By adopting a shared domestic violence policy, Franklin County agencies improved their coordination, focusing on areas such as cross-agency communication, risk assessment, evidence collection, and training. A core aspect of this approach is ensuring justice even when victims cannot participate in the process, which is crucial for their safety. Since 2021, the interagency team has met monthly to develop strategies addressing system gaps, creating information sharing protocols, and purchasing necessary equipment to support these collaborative efforts. This initiative also included establishing firearm surrender protocols, implementing risk assessments, standardized bond requests, for high-risk cases, and facilitating specialized training for law enforcement and advocacy teams. This coordinated approach has already produced significant results. Temporary protection orders for felony domestic violence cases increased from 19 in 2022 to 147 in 2023, with 80 more filed in the first half of 2024. The Strangulation Team Operations for Prosecution, known as STOP, training program, attended by 25 law enforcement officers, led to 107 felony investigations since June 2024, with an additional 25 officers preparing to undergo this critical training. The 2025 recommended budget includes an investment of nearly $500,000 to support the new Batterers Intervention Program. This initiative is a partnership between the Columbus Office of Violence Prevention and the Franklin County Municipal Court, designed to address the underlying causes of intimate partner domestic violence and promote long-term behavioral change. The program provides comprehensive assessments to evaluate the risk and needs of participants, tailoring treatment plans that include group sessions, individualized supervision, and community-based interventions. Key components of the program focus on accountability, education on healthy relationship dynamics, and strategies for conflict resolution. Enhancements in the Batterers Intervention Program aim to eliminate barriers to participation, such as financial burdens, employment conflicts, and childcare responsibilities. Participants benefit from free programming, flexible scheduling, and expanded group offerings, creating an inclusive environment for success. The program also emphasizes aftercare and supportive services, ensuring individuals have the resources needed to sustain positive changes. Through these efforts, the Batterers Intervention Program strives to empower individuals to break the cycle of violence and build healthier relationships. By offering structured support and evidence-based practices, the program also aims to reduce recidivism and foster safer communities. Now I'll turn the presentation over to Director Jeff Young from Franklin County Emergency Management and Homeland Security to discuss advances and how we communicate with residents during emergencies and notify them of safety concerns. Thank you.
Franklin County Emergency Management and Homeland Security continues to serve every resident in Franklin County and remains dedicated to supporting each of our 43 jurisdictions. The agency focuses on several key areas ranging from disaster planning, grants, exercises and training, as well as resource management. This year, I'd like to address two additional programs that impact every resident, visitor, and guest, not only in Franklin County, but the larger Central Ohio region. These impactful programs are the Alerting and Warning Program, as well as 911 Regional Communications. Traditionally, I believe it is accurate to say that residents and communities in Franklin County recognize and trust the countywide tornado siren system. This system, with its 198 sirens, is the largest in the state of Ohio and is one of the largest amongst peer national metropolitan areas. Despite being such a large system, it is managed and maintained to ensure it is more than 99% fully functional every hour, 365 days of the year, even as severe weather events continue to become more frequent and impactful. To attain this high level of readiness, we will work with local jurisdictions to begin a multi-year process of replacing 20% of our oldest sirens. These older model sirens have been out of manufacturer production for several decades, but through a proactive maintenance program, we have continued to ensure that they provide reliable service to our community. Unfortunately, we have now reached a point where the stock of repair parts has begun to be depleted, making it necessary to implement a planned replacement program. To undertake these replacements, we've been working with each local jurisdiction as the actual owner of the siren to inform them of the need for replacement and to ensure the necessary funding is included within their local capital budget. While the siren system is a trusted resource that Franklin County residents can easily identify as a valuable alerting method, many are unaware that the county has a mass notification system available to all Franklin County jurisdictions and residents. For more than a decade, FCEM&HS has managed the mass notification system utilized by multiple jurisdictions for their internal staff notifications, and this system serves as the backbone for our Alert Franklin County program, which distributes weather watches and warnings to the public, as well as some specific public safety notifications, such as the Ohio State University's Buckeye Alerts. An interesting aspect to the Alert Franklin County program is the changing expectations of Franklin County residents and their growing desire for reliable and trusted information. To keep evolving, we are actively working with Franklin County jurisdictions to improve how we collectively inform residents about critical non-weather related incidents and empower the public with protective information and any necessary actions they can or should undertake. To continue this system as a trusted resource for Franklin County, we will proceed with a scheduled contract renewal in 2025. Upon renewal of the mass notification contract, FCEM&HS will work with jurisdictions to further develop public safety incident notification templates and increase promotion of the system's alerting and warning products available to public safety agencies and how their residents can receive alerts. The final step in this upcoming process is to enhance the proficiency of message senders and emergency communications centers, ensuring they have the tools and knowledge on how best to keep the public informed. In addition to the alerting and warning program, the 911 Regional Communications Program also impacts residents, visitors, and guests in the county and region. In many cases, the incidents causing a need for an alert or warning are managed by the 911 telecommunications staff, who can be considered the first responders to any public safety response. With the adoption of the 2024 version of the Franklin County 911 plan, the existing 911 services received and managed by 19 public safety answering points will see a variety of changes in 2025. The Sheriff's Office Communications Center will be redeveloped as part of a relocation, and the City of Columbus will continue their planning for the public safety complex, which will include new communications and 911 technology. These projects are significant investments by local government as we proceed with enabling the Franklin County 911 system to be able to utilize more specific and more precise 911 call locating data instead of the traditional fixed location-based 911 routing and the previous method of master street address guides that have a variety of challenges. The goal for 2025 is for the 3 911 hubs or node agencies within the Franklin County 911 system to be prepared to implement next generation 911, which will result in an increase in the accuracy and efficiency of processing 911 calls for all jurisdictions, allowing for the quick dispatch of the correct public safety resource, regardless of the caller's location within Franklin County. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss these advancements in our emergency notifications and the 911 system as part of the county's greater vision of a thriving and safe community.
There are 13 agencies that fall primarily under community safety, security, and effective justice. Compared to the previous budget that was approved last December, these agencies will see a 6% increase. All of the increase in just over half of the 2025 recommended budget in this core principle is included within the sheriff's budget. With an all funds budget of $243 million, included in this budget is $27 million for the provision of complete health services and electronic health record system for inmate care, which is an increase of $4 million from last year, as well as nearly $2 million for the purchase of a new dispatch site. The 2025 recommended budget also includes the addition of 22 positions within the sheriff's office to support the review process of body-worn camera footage, to provide additional security in the courtrooms, and administrative staffing support, including within the Office of Recruitment, Diversity, and Inclusion. The 2025 recommended budget includes funding for 5 different courts, along with the clerk of courts and the municipal court clerk, totaling $140 million. This is a decrease of 1% from the previous budget, which is primarily related to a decrease in the clerk of courts for IT expenditures in 2024 that will not be required in 2025. The budget for the remaining entities will remain relatively flat, with any year-over-year growth primarily attributed to the impact of 2024 non-bargaining increases. In the case of the Common Pleas Court General Division, the increase in staffing costs are offset by the expenditures in 2024 related to the completion of the project to replace the audiovisual equipment in 30 courtrooms. The recommended budget includes the addition of an electronic monitoring supervisor related to the transition from a radio frequency house arrest program to a global positioning system known as GPS program. The process of placing individuals on GPS differs greatly from house arrest, and it requires more comprehensive information gathering. The recommended budget for the domestic court also includes the addition of one deputy court administrator to improve operational efficiency, creating an advanced strategic plans, and focus on staff development while improving the services provided to Franklin County residents. This position will provide direct supervision to the Juvenile Intervention Center, Youth Education and Intervention Services, and Juvenile Community Enrichment Services. 5 other agencies outside of the court support community safety, security, and effective justice. The recommended budget for these entities totals just under $76 million, which is a 2% increase from the prior year. Similar to the courts, any year-over-year growth is primarily attributed to the impact of 2024 non-bargaining increases. For the prosecuting attorney's office, the budget includes the addition of a victim witness assistant to help with the growing caseloads and assist with temporary protection orders connected with criminal cases in the county. The variance in the public defender's office is attributable to a decrease in the vacancy rate as more positions within the agency are expected to be filled in 2025. The budget for emergency management and homeland security is significantly impacted by the allocation of federal funds. The state homeland security program will no longer be issuing regional awards, but have moved to a project-based award methodology. As a result, no funds are included in the budget, leading to the decrease from 2024. Edmund Burke reminds us that whenever a separation is made between liberty and justice, neither, in my opinion, is safe. The 2025 recommended budget seeks to ensure this union through investments in the justice system that creates opportunities for engagement and trust, implement strategies to deter crime and violence, and help victims navigate and connect with support resources. We will continue to be guided by our core beliefs, recognize the inherent worth of all individuals, ensuring equitable treatment, free from bias, reinforcement, the county's commitment to the public's best interests. This concludes today's presentation on community safety and security and effective justice. We would be happy to answer any questions that you may have, commissioners. Thank you.
I was going to let the other commissioners go since I started out first last time. Okay, if they're not going to go, I'll jump in there. One again, thank you to administration, to Director Pride, and to all of the folks who were part of putting together this presentation and plan. Actually looking for my other question here. Yeah, to all the folks, Jeff, others who are doing it. One thing, Administrator Wilson, that I didn't see, and I have to say, when you guys go through the long presentation, and it's not extra long, but you read through it, and sometimes I'm trying to keep up. I might see something that you say, and then I zero in on that, then I'm behind. And so it's kind of a constant chase to stay up on what you're saying. So I might have missed this. And so it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention. It's just that I got zeroed in on one or two things, and then I got behind, and then I was reading to keep up. And so just kind of, I got out of whack there. It's hard to kind of understand this expenditure when you went through the list of how we're allocating the budget, or at least what we recommended, not fully understanding the cost of the new jail facility and the programmatic aspect. How is that what does that look like, and how does that play into some of this prevention of recidivism and some of this other work that's so critical to our safety environment?
President Boyce, Commissioner Crawley, Commissioner O'Grady. The ongoing cost of the implementation of the James A. Kearns Correctional Facility has been built into the budget on a continuous basis. Therefore, that's why you don't see a fluctuation. One of the key places, and budget director can come in and give some specifics, is overtime. The overtime costs, as we look at the transition, for example, they moved our intake from the Jackson Pike to the James A. Kearns Correctional Facility, and in doing so, it has increased overtime. We have allotted for at over 400 FTEs. That was the number that had been identified by the sheriff's office as the number of deputies that they needed to meet the current demand as they transition individuals into the new facility.
Thank you, County Administrator Wilson. And thank you, Commissioner Boyce, for your question. As it relates to the aspect of prevention and programming, we are continuing to work very closely with the Sheriff's Office Social Service team, who has went through recently some leadership changes, but the continuity of what we're working to effectuate with them for programming is still present. We are still offering our jail-based programs as it relates to everything from medicated assisted treatment to our Pathways to Recovery program for both the men and women. We are also working to continue to do more of the pre-release planning. So versus waiting until, of course, a resident is walking out of the door, as much in-reach and communication that we can have with residents prior to their release, of course, shows in the data the greater chance for their success and reduces their recidivism. So those efforts have continued to be streamlined with the Sheriff's Office. One thing that also was not noted in our earlier budget, as DCA Bivens stated, was the recent acceptance and approval of the $1.6 million that we've incurred from the Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Grant, which will support our jail population review clinical team. As we launched our jail population review, that is something that's also embedded for our residents who are frequent utilizers of our system, but most importantly are impacted by severe pervasive mental health. When we relaunched the jail population review, we understood that the mental health of the residents that are cycling through was the key and top priority. And so we've continued to also work with the social services team to address that, and understood that we needed specialized clinical teams and those who are trained to support that area as well. So programming is moving forward fluidly as we continue the transition from one facility over to the other.
And Commissioner, if I could just add, going back to one of the observations and comments that you had made a couple of years back of really strengthening that relationship with partners like Adam H. to make sure that there are critical components, and you helped bring that together some time ago, and that continues to be one of the many partners, as Director Pride had indicated and Administrator Wilson, of making sure that we're maximizing the resources and leadership in the community to affect the outcomes of the residents that come through that facility.
One of the things President Boyce, Commissioner Crawley, Commissioner O'Grady, that I highlighted is included in this recommended budget is $27 million for the provision of complete health services for the inmates, and that includes you all approved the ability to increase our emphasis on medically assisted treatment to complement our Rapid Resource Center, for example. And we are providing the dollars so that individuals that are in our facility will have the acute care medications that they need. So that's where the growth that is in the agreement with the vendor that we're working with, and that is that. And we also have for the provision of a electronic health record system, and that will improve the quality of inmate care with the intention to ensure that fewer medications are missed and that things are received in a timely fashion within our facility. And that's 4 million in growth versus last year.
Okay.
If I may ask a follow-up question, and I'm sorry, I was in a whole coughing spell, because I was gonna jump in first before Commissioner Boyce. But I think this was a perfect setup for my question. Because as I was talking about mental health and with the last group, and now you mentioned the opioid settlement dollars that we got out into the community based off of the allocation, the appropriation that came directly to the county. We know that the regional board has not been approved for any grants or any applications that have gone up to the One Ohio Foundation board. Is that correct? We've got a lot of applications.
Yeah, so actually, Commissioner Boyce, the board has completed review of those applications that came into Region 1 and determining where and what partners would benefit from those dollars. So that review process has been completed to this date.
That's Commissioner Crawley, by the way. She
I'm
looks
sorry,
she
Commissioner
looks far
Crawley. I'm
better
sorry.
than me. So just so you
Like,
know.
wait a minute.
Commissioner Crawley.
Commissioner Crawley is far better. Yeah, that's an insult to her. And I just wanted to correct you on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyce.
I'm a lot
Sorry,
younger.
Commissioner.
But no, so the applications that came through Region 1 have been approved already?
Yes, they have been scored and it has been determined what entities will receive those dollars.
Okay, and have they been notified?
As of this date, they have not.
Okay,
Yes, I know that those
Okay.
communications are going out, but I do not believe at this date that all entities have been notified.
okay. And so I just want to be mindful of that as we move forward, because I'm sure there'll be a second round. We'll continue to get money. But the need, especially for those who are dealing with addiction and homeless, who might have dual diagnosis or be undiagnosed, but we know are suffering from a mental health or behavioral health challenge that ends up coming into our facilities. We need to just continue to let me just say this. We did the long acting injectables. I know we continue to approve contracts for peer support service providers, which I think goes a long way because we don't have enough clinicians or practitioners. But I think as we move forward with our opioid dollars, or even if there is opportunities through community partnerships, through our health equity grants to support grassroots organizations, right? We have those larger organizations and agencies that are doing this work, but also there are others that have, a pulse on the community that, may have applied before and didn't get funding. And I think, as we've talked about our grant making process being more equitable, so the smaller organizations can also have opportunity to partner with the board. I think that will be key because they make change. And it might not be on a large scale, but they might make change neighborhood by neighborhood. And so we need to be, just intentional about our funding there.
Commissioner Crawley, if I could add to that point, actually, just over a year ago, the Office of Justice Policy and Program launched a pilot called Equity and Grants Making, specifically to target our grassroots organizations who otherwise don't typically have access or the administrative ability to manage the large-scale grants that are often passed through our office and or given to the larger organizations that you mentioned. And so would certainly be happy to share with you some of the data that we've been able to glean around those investments in our smaller grassroots agencies, and all the way down to even what is the makeup of their agency and race equity, demographic, and other programming that is targeted to the populations in which they serve, in an effort to make sure that we are being more equitable in those practices.
Thank you. My question is about the juvenile. So when I did my most recent tour of the JEC, one of the things that Judge Stroud brought up, and I know we're working on some things, but as it relates to recidivism and programming, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but what I took from that is like there's not enough being done. Like there's a large focus on adults, absolutely, as we need to focus on adults. But there needs to be just as much a focus on our juveniles, and so they don't go into our adult facilities, right? And I jumped back on while you were already speaking. I think you had just got to the batter. So I don't know if you talked about some of the programming for recidivism, diversion, but what new programming, if any, are we doing for our juveniles?
So right now, our investments through our juvenile delinquency prevention grant funding incorporate new partners as well as existing partners who have had very strategic and impactful outcomes. As it relates to our work tangential to the juvenile court with Judge Stroud, we have been in constant meetings with her and her team to amplify first their landscape analysis of their needs, and then working to embed those programs with the support of community partners. She and I was just communicating with a group of us who had went to a convening, including the Urban League, around the WRTU program, which is the year-round prevention program for young people in our community, and bridging that gap over into the juvenile intervention center for more of the prevention aspect of it, not just the post-release. We've also been working very closely internally within our Health and Human Services with our Family Stabilization Unit to also support the efforts of the juvenile court and working to move more upstream to prevent, but also to intervene in the intercepts that our young people have made contact with the system. So there are a lot of moving parts around the work that we're doing with the juvenile court to enhance and to create programs where historically none have existed.
I appreciate that. I would say, I think this goes to also the previous presentation on why it matters to invest early in our early learners. We know what the data says, that they're less likely to be juveniles and engaged in criminal activity and engage in the criminal justice system. So proud of the work that we all are doing in the early learning space. But I think also I would like for some of those conversations to get lifted up to the commissioners, because we may have some ideas on, and not like we need to create necessarily another new program, but sometimes I learned today, or didn't learn today, but heard today, a reference that makes sense that I heard early on in my career is like, study your impact. Right. And so be willing to pivot sometimes, even mid-program, if something isn't working, and be students of your work. And so, we might have thoughts and ideas on, something new, or as we're traveling with NACO or others, going to other counties to see what they're doing there, we might have some ideas. So as you're having those conversations, great. But I would like for those to percolate up, and then also, so then that opens the door for our ideas to percolate down.
Yes, ma'am. Will do.
Yeah, I'll just build on that too. Thank you, Commissioner Crawley, for raising that in the manner you did. I couldn't agree with you more. Some of the conversations that we've been having with Judge Stroud is about this facility that the state is requiring us to build. And what I've said to them is very similar to what Commissioner Crawley was suggesting there, which is that we take the deeper dive to not just build the facility to the standards that the state of Ohio is requiring. For it's like a juvenile CBCF facility, but to really try to understand how it links into the broader system, where other existing resources can wrap around and support not just the juvenile that's in the facility, but the family, and connect all systems together. And so while we've got a deadline on that, we've been trying to meet. What I've challenged Judge Stroud to do and think about is the deeper dive. And I'm so grateful for Commissioner Crawley, and I know Grady has some interest there too. But I think to Commissioner Crawley's point, this is a real opportunity. This is an area where I think the commissioner should be a little more engaged in, because when we focus on that juvenile facility, there's going to be implications on other things. And we just it all needs to be a connected conversation. And so I just wanted to emphasize that, because, that conversation is picking up on that facility too.
I appreciate that. And one thing, Director Pryor, if you want to respond to that, that would be great. But as you respond, what do you do? We have families. I met a woman before who's just like throwing her hands up, like, my child is a problem. I want him, locked up. I don't know what else to do. I got other kids at home. Like, what do we do in those situations, right? Like, what do we do when you have a family who might have went to Children's Services for help and support, right, for prevention, and didn't get connected? We have a child or a youth who is engaging in behavior that could be of criminal nature or just a menace. What do we, to the community or to the family, like, what are the resources for families? And we could talk about this offline. I think this makes sense for a conversation that we'll have in the future. But like, we can't just throw up our hands and say, we'll let whatever happens. We can't shelter every child that is a problem for the family, but then also what resources are available for families. So this is near and dear. And there are a lot of families, there are a lot of parents who find themselves just ran out of resources and options.
Thank you so much for lifting that. I think one of the biggest things that we can do is really some things that were hit on earlier, which is making sure that we are meeting our young people and their families where they are upstream and finding out that root causation, and making sure that there's continuity in the services and resources that we give to our families. A lot of times the families are throwing their hands up and they're frustrated because they don't even know where to turn or what's available to them. And we as system actors have the responsibility of aligning those resources and making them readily available, not at the intercept of the court system, because for many young people at that point it's too late, but very much upstream, and making sure that we're doing that. So a lot of the meetings that we've had with Judge Stroud, the community partners that have been included, their new department, FACES department that focuses on the community wraparound and family system engagement, has been to let's align our services and let's make it something that is more human-centric for the families to be able to gauge in, so that way they understand not just what's available to them, but how do we help them and walk alongside them to disrupt the patterns that they're seeing in their young people, because there's a root causation. No kid just wakes up one day and decides, this is how I'm going to behave, this is how I'm going to act out, this is what I'm going to do, to find myself in the justice system. There is a series of things that happened that shouldn't have, and some things that should have happened that didn't, that we have to do a better job of making sure that we're wrapping around that family to support and to intervene in. So those are a lot of our conversations. I think DCA Bivens can probably speak to the amount of meetings that we've had here recently as well, just with juvenile court partners, stakeholders, and most importantly, those community partners that the community trust to engage our young people and develop the relationships that will lead towards change.
Any additional questions from the commissioners?
If there are no other comments or questions, that will conclude today's presentation on the core principle of community safety, security, and effective justice. Before we end today's session, a reminder that you can view more information on the budget by going to our website at budget.franklincountyohio.gov. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Franklin County BOC, or visit our YouTube podcast feed by searching Franklin County Media. Our next budget hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, November 26th on Zoom, starting at 1 o'clock with presentations related to the core principles of racial equity, good stewardship of natural resources, environmental sustainability and civic engagement, and job creation, strategic economic development, and fiscal security. Thank you for attending today's 2025 budget hearing.
Recording stopped.